Hello, everyone. It's nice to be back for the fourth teaching in this series about how to promote a culture of life. And we have been having all sorts of technical issues, which is not surprising with this type of topic. So hopefully my internet will be stable. We have had to change cameras, computers, and it's still saying it's a bit unstable. So I am just praying that everything will be okay. So as you know, I've been doing a series about life, and I've been trying to do things about life to help equip you to know how you can spread a culture of life. And so, sorry about the sound in the background, technical issues. And just to introduce myself real quickly, I'm Leslie Seagraves. I'm the president of 1040 Connections. And with our organization, we desire to fuel disciple-making movements among the least reached. And we do that mostly through defending life because it is a gospel issue, and also through multiplying leaders, trying to move as many laborers out there as possible. So with this, I'm also a pro-life apologist with Scott Klusendorf with Life Training Institute. And that group is a phenomenal group. If you want to check them out, it's prolifetraining.com. I believe I wrote that down to make sure. Prolifetraining.com. Yes, if you want to find some more resources to help equip you, that's a great group that equips you through. There's a lot of blogs that answer some questions. So tonight, I'm sorry, I have the fan blowing. I've got sheets going everywhere. So tonight, just to give us an overview of what we've done in the first lesson, what we did, the first teaching, I traced the spiritual realm and how there are actual demonic principalities that press down on the natural realm. And there's true principalities that are trying to cultivate a culture of death. And it's permeating the United States right now. Today, by the time we do this recording, there will be 3,000 more sacrifices of babies to the God Molech. It's true child sacrifice. It's where we give what is greater for something to achieve something that is lesser. And even if people don't understand they're doing child sacrifice, it is exactly what it is. And this blood cries out. And there will be repercussions on the United States of America if we continue to have this type of blood being poured out on our streets of our unborn babies, and promoting it globally as well. The second lesson, I talked about the pro-life narrative that works its way through Genesis through Revelation with the names of Jesus, with certain stories where we see that God is highlighting how to take care of a baby that's born prematurely because of men that are fighting, all sorts of stories, names of Jesus. We talked about that even though the Bible doesn't say you shall not have abortion, that concept is there because in the Bible, they always considered the life of the preborn just like a child's life outside of the womb. And so the same laws of protection would go out for the baby in the womb as those that are outside of the womb. The last teaching, I tried to help you to understand how you can use logic and science and philosophy to defend life. And so this means that you don't have to use and be a Christian to defend life, because the logic, science, and philosophy helps us to understand that from the earliest stages of development, you were already a distinct, living, and whole human being. You were not part of a human being. You were already a whole person in the human family. You just had yet to grow and mature. Differences in size, level of development, environment, or degree of dependence do not give good reasons that we could kill you then, but not kill you now. So right there in less than 60 seconds, I defended life with both philosophy and with science, and you can do that too. So this week, what I'm wanting to do is I'm wanting to go into a more practical session about what you can do to spread a culture of life in a land that's permeated with a culture of death. And I want to show you this picture right here. And the question I want to bring to us tonight is, how many more children must die before we choose to spread life? Hold on just a minute. Okay, Chad is telling me something to do to help with the sound. Okay, so how many more must die before we choose to step in the game and spread life? So let's just look at this statistic again. We did this the first week, but out of all of the deaths that happened last year, there were 69 million people that died from all sorts of causes combined. That would be people that die from murder, people that die from the flu, people that die from cancer, from suicide. All of the deaths globally combined, 69 million. If you take all of the deaths of reported abortions that we know about globally, that number would be 73 million abortion deaths. So my question is how many more children will it take to cause you and me to say, we have to step in the game. We have to do something to defend these babies. They are voiceless. We must be their voice. And so, as we go tonight, what I'm wanting to do tonight is I'm wanting to give you just a list of very practical things that you can do. And that list is going to be some of those things that are so obvious that you may already do. But what I'm asking you to do is to get up and to get out and to speak up and to speak out, because the lives of the unborn babies are depending on you and me to do what we are supposed to do. Whether you are a Christian or not, it's the humane thing to do to speak up about life. And now I'll speak directly to the Christians. There is no way to say that we depend on Jesus to die on the cross for our sins and to be resurrected to rescue us from both our sin and death, and then to promote a culture of death through either actions or through indifference. There is no way that we should be able to do that. That is a complete it's a complete contradiction to what we say our whole faith is based upon. Jesus Christ wants us to be involved in saving the lives of others. To go into this verse again, I just want to remind us, okay. So Chad keeps coming over with sound issues and it's like, wow, what are you doing? So Proverbs 24 verses 10 through 12. Let's just remind ourselves of this verse. If you're watching right now, I encourage you, read it aloud with me. So let me make sure you can see it. Whoop, that's the wrong one. Let's see. Let me get a bigger screen for you so that you can see better. If you falter in a time of trouble, how small is your strength? Rescue those being led away to death. Hold back those staggering towards slaughter. If you say, but we knew nothing about this, does not he who weighs the heart perceive it? Does not he who guards your life know it? Will he not repay everyone according to what they have done? Now, with this verse, we can all go, oh, wow, this is some these are challenging words. But what I want to encourage you with is that in Revelation 19, the Bible tells us that we someday will have completed the Great Commission and we will stand with Jesus Christ. The bride of Christ will stand with Jesus. Jesus has done his work on the cross to redeem and buy us back. And the bride of Christ will have completed the Great Commission and we will be there together. And the Bible says that the wedding linen of the bride of Christ is sewn together through the righteous acts of the saints. So when we see this verse, I just want you to know, don't become weary in doing good, in doing what's right, because Jesus sees those things and he is bottling those things up and putting them into the very fabric of the wedding linen of the bride of Christ. Your work will not be in vain. So as we move through, what can you and I do in order to spread a culture of life in a land that's permeated with a culture of death? I'm going to go through this quick list right here. First of all, pray. I told you in the first lesson, the greatest weapon we have is prayer. And I sometimes, after we've lived in multiple nations, and I can tell you that the West, we have so much to learn about prayer from the East. The East understands that prayer is a tool, it's a weapon that we have that actually pushes back darkness so that when we march out, we are anointed and the darkness has been pushed back and then the fruit can follow. So I shared with you a prayer cycle. I've done that this week. Chad has done that this week. I got an idea while doing that on that 11th issue. There's 5 increments, 12 increments, and 5 minutes for each increment. God speaks to us and gives ideas through prayer, and he helps activate us to know what to do. And so pray. If you are a Sunday school teacher, if you're a member of a Sunday school class or a Bible study, every time you meet together, say, I would like us to pray about the protection of babies in the womb. Just begin to be bold and bring the real issues of prayer to Jesus in groups. We must begin to do that. Volunteer. Find places you can volunteer. Go to your crisis pregnancy centers. Know what those are in your city. Find out what their phone numbers are. So if you're talking to someone at work that becomes in a situation that they need help, you immediately have the contact information. Be prepared to be that person that walks a person, that takes a person, that guides a person to a center that can give them hope. Volunteer. If you go and they seem overwhelmed to figure out where they can place you in the crisis pregnancy center, do not become discouraged. Realize that they are overworked and many times understaffed. And so to figure out where volunteers can work takes them some time and takes them some energy. But the volunteering is endless if you're a part of a local church. If your local church does not yet have something in it that's helping people to understand the issue of life, then you start that group. Start that group. Invite people to come in to equip people in your church to know how to defend life with science, with logic, with philosophy, with a pro-life narrative from the Bible. Mobilize your church. In the prayer walk I was taking the other day, I thought, every church needs to have some place in it that's a place that people just visually see, that it's like the corner for life. And then in that place, there's always a place you can donate diapers, you can donate formula, you can donate wipes, that the local church then can drop off every week to the crisis pregnancy center. But also in that little center, that little corner of the church that's speaking about life, there can be resources to pray about life. There can be resources to direct a person to a crisis pregnancy center if they are in a difficult situation. There can be information about for Bible studies for recovery if you've had an abortion and you want to be healed from that trauma. But what if every local church in our entire country had a place so that there was a visual representation of life in that church? So a person doesn't have to search everywhere in the local church to see if there's someone that can help them. It doesn't have to start large. Start it small, but make sure you are going to a church that's promoting a culture of life tangibly, academically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Learn to speak the pro-life argument. I've tried to make these as simple as I can. They can become simpler. The more you use it, the more you speak it, the simpler it will grow and become. This is not my main area of expertise, but this is something that I'm trying to grow in and equip others. And the more that I speak, the better I become at understanding the core of the pro-life argument. So get out there and use it, especially those of you who work in jobs and who go to school and who teach. You are around people that are probably spreading a culture of death or just think that's the normal way. So learn to speak up and out. Become an activist. And what I mean by that is find out who that goes to the actual abortion centers, to the Planned Parenthoods in your area. Be equipped on learning how to be a sidewalk counselor. Be someone who shows up and doesn't invade their territory, but takes territory on the places where it's legal for you to be, to pray and to pray for people as they are going in that they will not continue on with the abortion. There are so many stories of people that say that they made a different decision because they saw people praying. I actually heard a testimony not long ago of a man who was a Satanist, and he was high ranking. And one of the things in the Satanist temple they did were child sacrifices, and they did blessings over abortions. But they always knew that the numbers were lower of abortions in a certain center if there were a lot of people out praying in front of the abortion center. So find places. If you're in Chattanooga, Tennessee, Planned Parenthood is trying to establish abortion centers in your city. For years, we've been in the city without an abortion center. It's coming to Chattanooga unless you activate yourself and say, not on my watch will anything enter into Chattanooga that promotes the killing of children. So find out how to become an activist and engage in fighting for life in your city. Help foster parents or become a foster parent. You hear this all the time, but find out what you can do to ease the workload of someone who is fostering. There is some way that you can get involved in that. Adopt or help someone adopt. Do something to actively, many people who adopt children with special needs. We did. And so the expenses that go into that sometimes can be overwhelming if you have children with biological children with needs and adopted children with needs. So just step in some way to help someone else who is adopted. There's ways that you can do that, to just kind of be a part of taking in the orphan by serving. I remember while we were in China, a woman in Birmingham, Alabama wrote us while we were in China, and she said, "I did not feel led to give to your adoption fund. But what God did tell me to do is he told me to give you this amount to help with the first medical needs that Phoebe has." Do you know that the amount she promised us was the amount of our deductible, that as soon as we adopted Phoebe, we came home and we immediately had to put out thousands of dollars to get started on the medical journey of a cleft lip child and helping them to be able to eat on their own and to be able to speak? That was what some woman did to step into her adoptive journey of Phoebe. And that woman will always be to us someone that is so strategic in stepping in and doing something to care for our family who had chosen to adopt. Vote. I mean, what an easy thing in our culture to be able to do. Some countries, you don't have any access to changing the legislation about abortion in their country. We have that privilege still. Now, I will agree that in this election, we do not have the most pro-life party. Both parties are promoting death to a certain level, but one party is promoting death much more rapidly than the other. So what I did when I went in to vote is I tried to lessen the evil in our culture. I tried to pull back death how I could do that. And so don't throw your vote away. Don't think by not voting that you're speaking out and you're saving lives. You're not. Don't think by not voting that that moral feeling that you may have, because neither is good. No candidate will ever be perfect. And we do not have perfect ones in this election, but lessen evil. Vote policy. Don't vote person, vote policy, and examine the policies and see which one will pull back death a little bit more than the other one. The election hasn't yet happened for 2024, but I just read that at one of the big meetings that the party that loves death, promotes death the most, that they had 10 people that had abortions that came to talk all about abortion. The Democrat Party this time is pushing abortion more than any other policy. They're trying to push abortion on demand for any reason. And you have to vote. There's no other option as a Christian. We have to get in there to lessen evil. And then the other one that I thought of is give to groups that are fighting for life. There are groups, pregnancy centers, that are fighting on so many different fronts, trying to do things. I just read that they're trying to force pregnancy centers to have to promote abortion in their places. As someone just sent me an article. So there's legal expenses. There's expenses because of the artificial intelligence that's pushing people away from crisis pregnancy centers. There's the cost of ultrasound machines. The pregnancy centers do all of their services for free so that they can save and extend life and spread a culture of life. So they need us to come in and to donate to them. If you want to give to groups that are helping save lives internationally, that's something that 1040 Connections is doing. We're building currently a maternity home in Bangladesh. So find groups and give some money. So don't just think if you give some money and you vote, you're finished. There's something for every one of us to do to get our hands in the game to save innocent lives. So that's the first thing I wanted to do tonight, is to say, get in the game, get involved, figure out what you can do. Let's not make the people that are extending a culture of life ragged with exhaustion. Step in, relieve some of the burden. If the church simply, if every Christian in our country lifted their hands and got up on the issue of life, none of us would be overworked on this issue, and truly life would begin to flourish in our culture. There is no doubt about it. So get engaged, and everything that you do, it's not so you earn your salvation, but it's so that another stitch is placed into the wedding linen of the bride of Christ. So much to do. So much is needed to be done. Let's move on to some of the slogans that we hear in our culture. So what I thought I would do tonight is, just to complete this series, is to help you to think through answers to some of the biggest slogans that I hear and that other pro-life apologists hear and other people that are just on the ground defending life hear all the time, and try to give you just some answers to ponder Again, I will tell you that a great book to read is The Case for Life. And if this is just a great book written by Scott Klusendorf, this will equip you more fully. There's other resources. If you're interested in me sending you a list of resources, just let me know and I can try to do that for you. There's just a lot of different ways that you can be equipped with the different slogans. Another group I want to go ahead and send a shout out to is abort73.com. If you go onto their site, you will find lots of articles that I have found very useful that teach just in a short article that'll answer some of your questions, global statistics, national statistics, all sorts of information about how to answer difficult questions. So let me go ahead. I'm going to go into, I think, 5 different slogans or statements we hear in our culture the most. And I'm going to start with this one. What about the hardest case? And I just have the letter. You can fill in the other 3 letters. I don't want this word to become normalized because it is a atrocious tragedy. It's a gross injustice. And I don't want to normalize the word. I don't want to normalize the crime. And it's being normalized greatly in our culture right now. This is what many people will immediately get run to when they're wanting to promote abortion. Is they'll say, are you actually saying that a woman that has this happen to her, that she has to give birth to the person's child, the criminal's child? And so I want to help you to navigate this conversation. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on each slogan, but just to help you navigate it, I want to give you a few things that will help create cognitive dissonance when you're engaging with a person that brings this to your mind. First of all, you always want to answer with empathy, because I hope all of us have empathy for this horrendous crime done specifically to females. Males can have this happen to them as well, but females are have the worst statistics of this crime happening against them. So of course you're going to answer with empathy to start with, and you're going to identify with the person asking the question, like, this is a horrible crime. And I really hope that criminal, that they receive justice to the full extent of the law. So you're wanting to immediately help the person because you don't know if the person's asking has had this experience, or if the person who is asking has a sister or a mother or a daughter who's had this experience. And so you do want to be sensitive. However, you want to find out if the person who is asking, after establishing the empathy, if they are a learner, they're really wanting to understand what about this difficult situation, or as Scott Klusendorf says, are they a crusader? And so one of the ways you can establish who you're talking to is you can ask them the question. Let's just say they say the question like this to you. Let's say they say, well, are you actually saying that the woman is supposed to give birth to this child? What if the child, as they grow up, it reminds her of that terrible moment when she was violated? So what you can ask in that situation is you can say, well, let me ask you, let's just say she does give birth to the child. And when the child turns 2 or 3, they really begin to resemble the man who harmed her. Do you think it's okay in that situation to kill that 2 or 3-year-old? The person will say, well, no, of course not. You can ask the question, why not? Well, because that's a human being. And do you see now how you've trotted out the toddler, because what the person is assuming is that person, if they were inside the womb, they are not a human being. So then you can move to it's just wrong to intentionally kill an innocent human being, whether they're the 2-year-old or the person in the womb. And I know that'll be a difficult situation, but let me ask you this question. What do you think a civil society should do when someone is reminded of a horrible crime done to them because of what someone looks like? Should we be allowed to kill that person? And so you're just taking them to that how a civil society can work. So that's one technique you can use. Another technique that you can use is you can say, okay, I know that this situation is a hard question. So let's just say, for the sake of our conversation, let's just say I give you that 1% of cases where pregnancy happens because of this violence done to a woman, that 1%, if you will give me the 99% where that's not the reason that the person is pregnant. If I give you the 1%, will you give me the 99% and say, in these situations, abortion should not happen? If the person's a learner and really has concern for that 1%, they might concede and say, okay. But usually what happens is the person is a crusader and they will say, absolutely not. And then you can say, so actually, are you supporting just abortion for any reason for that person and for any other reason? Usually they are. And this is where you really help the person to see that what they are doing is something that's very unfair. And this is what you would say. You would say, why are you exploiting a woman who's already experienced a horrible crime against them? Why are you riding on their backs and trying to support abortions on demand for any reason whatsoever? Why are you using their case to defend your ideology? Haven't they already suffered enough? This is an important thing, I think, to realize and to do, because I've read lots of testimonies of women who are of people, boys, men and women who have been born after their mom has been hurt in this way. And they talk about what's happening in our culture right now is very, very difficult for them, because basically they're saying they should not exist now. So call the bluff on the person who's exploiting women in this way by using the hardest case possible to bring the most emotive case possible to try to defend their ideology that they believe in abortion on demand. One other technique that I'll quickly do is you can ask the person in the situation where a pregnancy happens because of a violence done to a woman, can you tell me how many people are involved in this pregnancy? You can wait a little bit and finally they'll say two, well, actually three. So you can say, you're right, there's three people involved. There's the criminal, there's the mother, and there's the baby. So let's take the criminal. Do you think that the criminal should be punished? Well, yes, I think the criminal should be punished. Well, do you think the criminal should be executed for this crime? Now, some might say yes, but the majority of people will say, well, not executed, but I think they should be in jail for a real long time. You can say, fair enough. What about the mother? Do you think that the mother should be killed because of the crime that was done to her? Should be executed? Should be punished? No, I don't think she should be punished. Should she be executed? No, I don't think she should be executed. That's stupid. Okay, let's take the third person involved in this story. Should the child be punished because of the crime of her dad? Well, no. Well, should the child be executed? And that is where the person will say, oh. So then you can say, so why should the child be executed for the crime of their father who did the crime? So with this hard case scenario, what you're seeking to do is, with your empathy and with your logic, you are staying tethered to your syllogism that it is wrong to intentionally take the life of an innocent human being, to kill an innocent human being. And you're using your logic and you're using your empathy to be able to bring some cognitive dissonance into the person who's asking you if you can say abortion on demand for all 100% cases of pregnancies when people do not want that child. I hope that has helped you a little bit. Let's go to the second one. What about the mother's life? So as I begin this question, I want to first quickly say that a miscarriage and an abortion are not the same thing. Throughout the country, in all 50 states, a woman can receive medical services for a miscarriage. There is no state that will withhold a miscarriage, medical treatment for a miscarriage. A miscarriage happens because something did not work out right with the mother's system or with the baby's system. An abortion is an intentional killing, harming of an innocent child to cause that child to die. It's the intentional, deliberate killing of a child. Two very different issues and scenarios. Now, what about a mother's health? What about a mother's life? You need to ask the person that you're talking to, what do you mean by a mother's life? Often what they're talking about is they'll use the term mother's health or mother's life, but usually they don't really mean mother's life. There's not a whole bunch of women that die because they're pregnant. And we're going to talk about some more difficult cases in just a second. First of all, you need to understand that mother's health is a very, um, it's a phrase that has lots of meanings in our culture. A mother's health could mean economic health, psychological health, emotional health. It could mean family health. It could be her well-being. There's People are using the term women's health to mean any and everything, anything that could disrupt a woman's life. So a woman is going to college and she gets pregnant. She says, I don't want this pregnancy. I need to terminate so I can have my career. And a provider could say her health was in play because she was depressed, because she thought that she might not be able to finish college. So, William Hearn, who is a late term abortionist, he actually said that an unwanted pregnancy was a serious threat to a woman's health. So, he used the term unwanted pregnancy would hinder her health or would cause a serious threat to her health. So you need to understand that what is being promoted. So, like right now in Texas, in our country, they are talking about, because of the pro-life laws of their state, they are saying that right now that women's health is in great danger. This is what you're hearing all over the nation through all sorts of TV ads, that women's health is in danger. I was just talking to the head of our school the other day. He went and got his hair cut. And the barber was saying, oh, this is awful what's happening in our country. Women are going to die. And he said, why are women going to die? Well, because if they can't get access to abortion. And so this leader of the school said, that is incorrect information. Every state has protections for the woman if her life is truly in danger because of the pregnancy. So let me give you a little bit of understanding. You may already know this, probably you do, but just a little bit of understanding about why a woman's health life could be in danger because of her pregnancy. The first one is because of ectopic pregnancy. This is when the baby, the zygote, the little embryo, when the sperm and the egg, when they meet in the fallopian tube. And then the new embryo, zygote, and all the different names that you call it before the embryo stage, it plants, instead of in the uterus, it chooses to plant inside the fallopian tube. Now, the fallopian tube is as thin as a spaghetti noodle. And what's inside inside the little fallopian tube that is so narrow, are these little hair-like structures that flow, that bring that fertilized egg down the fallopian tube and send it into the uterus, where most pregnancies plant. Every now and then, though, that newly formed, distinct living whole human being plants inside this little thin, narrow fallopian tube. This is a very serious situation for both mom and baby. Now, at some point, our technology may enable a physician to go in and to remove that embryo from the fallopian tube and remove it and place it in the uterus so that it plants there. Someday that technology may exist. Right now, it does not. If the ectopic pregnancy continues on, what will happen is that embryo will continue to grow to where eventually the fallopian tube will burst. And what can happen in this situation is there can be internal hemorrhaging for the mother, which can lead to death, subsequent death. Very dangerous for the mother. Now, when a doctor discovers that this woman has an ectopic pregnancy, the physician, he or she, will say, you have an ectopic pregnancy, and to protect your life, we need to remove the embryo. So some will say in our country, and many are saying, that this means that because of these pro-life laws, that a doctor would not be able to remove that baby. That is not true. This is a true life and death situation. So the physician has a choice. Do you let the pregnancy continue on? And what will happen is the definite death of the baby, because the baby cannot be sustained inside the fallopian tube, and the more than likely death of the mother. And so what the doctor has to do is has to say, okay, I can't prevent both of them from dying. Can I prevent one of them from dying? They are not getting to choose who. they're going to let live. The baby is going to die. So what the doctor does is removes the baby, but it is not an abortion because it is not the intentional killing of that distinct, living, whole human being. It is the sad reality that in order to protect the mom's life, that baby must be removed. So the treatment for an ectopic pregnancy is not an abortion in the sense that it's an intentional killing. It's a removal of that baby to save the mother's life. Every state has there's been no state that a doctor does that then they have criminal investigation done into them for that medical procedure. There's a lie going on in Texas. I just saw this on someone's page, and I want to read this to you right now. If you'll go research the Texas Alliance for Life, they are talking about that right now, that they're saying that the pro-life laws in Texas are harmful to women. They're saying this about the laws in Tennessee and Georgia and Florida. It is not true. And then they go on and they give all of these treatments that they did on women to save a woman's life when there was true life and death for the mother. The third thing I want to say on this point is, during the third trimester, it is never safer. OBGYNs, thousands of them have stated that it is never safer in the third trimester to do an abortion rather than doing a birth of a child early. So in some situations, a woman may have hypertension, and she has to deliver the baby early in order to save her life because of her blood pressure. In this case, it's not an abortion because as soon as that baby is born through a C-section or however that baby is born, immediate life intervention is given to help the baby and, of course, the mother. So if you hear people saying in the third trimester for the life of the mother, there's no OBGYN that'll state that in order to, thousands of them say it's safer to actually deliver than to do an abortion and then to do life-saving measures on the baby. So I hope that helps you a little bit on that one. There's a whole bunch more that could be said, and you can research your own state, the laws, but that one is that one. Okay, the third one we want to go through quickly is my body, my choice. We hear this all the time. You'll see this in signs when they're doing protests. You'll see this all the time. This one is not that hard to speak against just because you just use a little bit of logic. So there are two bodies involved. And so the woman at a certain time of her life for those 9 months, she does not have 20 fingers, 20 toes, 2 hearts, 4 kidneys, 4 lungs, 2 brains. She's a woman, but she's got boy because there's a little boy inside of her. There are 2 distinct bodies. And it is true that her body is being used to sustain the life of a child, but there are 2 bodies. So this my body, my choice goes into the bodily autonomy arguments. And this is where a woman just claims that it's because she has the control of what she will allow to happen in her body. First, I want to debunk the idea that any of us can do anything that we want with our bodies. There are laws throughout all 50 states that tell you there are certain things you cannot do with your body without going to jail if you do certain things. The first hard case that we said, if a man is caught because he has done that violation to a woman, there are penalties and punishments for doing that. He can't just say, my body, my choice. There are so many laws. I won't go into them right now. But when someone is fighting for my body, my choice, you can ask them, you can say, so do you believe in bodily autonomy? Oh, yes, I do. Well, what about the bodily autonomy of the unborn child? Does that body have choice? Well, no. And then they'll go into, because either they're not a human being or they're not a person yet, that can take you into science and philosophy. But you can see where that kind of gets you into a way to use logic and philosophy by asking the question. So when a person is saying my body, my choice, they're basically saying it's my body, and they're not willing to use their body for 9 months so that another person has life. The baby has to sacrifice their bodily autonomy and their life because of abortion being in the United States. So some will go into a really silly argument and will say the baby has not asked my permission. I have not given consent for my body to be used in this way. And you will say that is ridiculous. Maybe you've never heard that. I have had numerous conversations with people who will say this. I will have this idea. My body, that I've not given consent. So a very easy way to answer this is if it's not because of that emotive reason we talked about, a violation of a woman's body, if it's a choice to engage in the act that actually brings the fruit of another human being, you have given permission, because this is the act that is the one act that actually multiplies and brings fruit to another human being. So you have actually given permission with the act. That act has caused a child to be developed. That act has caused a child to be dependent. And now the parents are saying they have the right to kill, but it's what they have actually caused. So, I've got to take 30 seconds because the chat has to fix something. Hold on just a minute. Is there something going on? Okay, stay with me. Chad's trying to fix something. Hold on. Is it not working on this one? Okay, we're trying it again. Let's see. Could I just use the camera from the computer and make the... Okay, I'm back. Hold on, let me do it for you. There we go. Keep going? Okay, I'm gonna keep going. Is it using this camera or this camera up here? Okay, I see words up there, but you wanna make sure? Okay, I'm gonna keep going. So thankfully, I'm so thankful for Chad. He's doing the hard job. So my body, my choice. So is it that camera's working? Okay. So my body, my choice. We're still moving on in that one. So let's see. Okay. So some people that will claim this, they'll talk about that. And I've heard people actually say this, that pregnancy is harmful for a woman. Pregnancy is not harmful for a woman. This is so logical, but the uterus was designed to hold life. It was not designed for any other purpose but to hold life. So though a woman's body may change for 9 months, that's not irreversible. It can go back to where it was before that amount of time, but it's not damaging to a woman's body to be pregnant. Actually, there are some women that actually feel their very best when they are pregnant. So we need to be careful by saying that. Is everything okay?
Change that.
Oh, okay. Okay. Right here. That's what I'm doing. Okay. All right. Sorry about all the technical things. We knew going in that tonight was going to be possibly difficult because we were having so many problems beforehand. Okay. Some people, I won't go into that one. Okay. Also, you might hear people say that the baby in the womb is a parasite and has no right to be there because it's just a parasite harming the woman's body. I have actually heard people say this. A parasite is an alien that's not normally present in the human body. When it's talking about an alien, a parasite that invades the body, it's something that's not normally present. A baby's relation to the mother is normal and it is a proper relationship. It's the way the body has been designed. And I was listening to a TED Talk today with my pro-life class about the amazing anatomy of the baby that is developed miraculously. This was a mathematician and a physician, and he said it's absolutely beyond mind-boggling, the mathematics that are involved in that development of the way that the human body has developed, but also the way the woman's body has been developed in order to be able to incubate a human life growing and developing inside of her. So that's all I'll say about that part. The last one, my body, my choice. This statement that women will shout all the time, it completely lets the dads off the hook. Because if the women get to say my body, my choice, then the men should be able to say my body, my choice, and I don't want to do child support, and I don't want to have anything to do with the baby that's born. So if a mom can say that, then a dad should be able to say that. And that's not the kind of society that's going to be a flourishing society where everyone is denying the responsibility of the adult, the dad and the mom, to a child. Okay, I hope that helps that a little bit. I know we had a little bit of distraction in there. Sorry about that. But basically use some logic. It's two bodies. You can move to science or philosophy, wherever, but the woman's body, the baby does not have to ask permission or consent to be there. The act gives the baby permission to be there. Okay, let's move on to this one. You might have heard this if you're a man, you're just a man, you have no say, or you might have heard people say, no uterus, no voice. Okay, this is an argument or a phrase or a slogan that completely misses the point. There is no such thing as a man's argument or a woman's argument or a short person's argument or a tall person's argument. An argument stands or falls on the validity and on the soundness and the logic of what it is claiming. So there's no such thing as that. So what I usually say, or what Chad says if he hears someone say this when he's doing his work to speak up for life, is you can say, oh, so are you saying that you were completely against the decision that happened in 1973 when Roe v. Wade was passed? No, I think Roe v. Wade was great. It was awful when it was pulled away. And you can say, well, I thought you just said men shouldn't have a voice on the abortion issue. And there were 9 Supreme Court justices, and they were all male that made the decision for Roe v. Wade. That will create some cognitive dissonance and probably some yelling at you. This type of statement that men have no voice on the issue of abortion is what is called an ad hominem fallacy. And it's where someone attacks the person instead of attacking the argument. And so you want the person to realize, to say, you know what, I am, if you're a man, I am a man, but help me understand why my claim is wrong, that it's wrong to intentionally kill an innocent human being. And that's what abortion does. And so that's why abortion is wrong. It has nothing to do with me being a man or a woman. Also, another piece of logic that you can use on this type of slogan is to say, well, which women are you speaking about? What about the women in the womb? Because about 50% of those in the womb are female. Where is their voice? When do they get to have a voice on the matter? What about the millions of women around the world that are pro-life? Is it only the women that are for pro-abortion that have the voice? But also, which women in the pro-abortion side? Because they have different understandings of the way they look at the issue of abortion. There are some that would say that abortion, we need to admit it, that it is killing a human being, while others will say it's no different than vacuuming your house. So there's no one set of statement that one group of people is making about the issue. And so when you hear the statement that, you are a man, you have no right to speak, you have a right to speak because the question is who counts as one of us. And you are speaking for humanity when you're speaking about and trying to defend life in the womb. Okay, I think I only have one more that I'm going to do. Yep, just one more tonight that I'm going to do that hopefully will help you. And the last one is you're only pro-birth. You are not really pro-life. And let me help you to understand what people mean by this. You will probably hear people will say, all you are is pro-birth. You could care less what happens to children afterwards. Okay. So what you don't want to do in this is to get into a competition telling them all the good things you do in your life. You do not have to give them a resume. What they're trying to do is they're trying to switch the labels. They are trying to make it to where pro-life no longer just means the defense so that babies are not killed in the womb. They're trying to say that you have to be about all of life to truly be pro-life. So what they will try to do is they will say, if you don't care about refugees, if you don't care about poverty, if you don't care about educating children, if you don't care about illiteracy, if you don't care about hunger, if you don't care about anti-trafficking, then you're not really pro-life. And they will give a list of things that people who are claiming to care about children in the womb are supposed to do to prove that they are actually pro-life. Now, what is interesting is, one, the people that are making that claim are probably not doing every single one of those social justice issues, and they are certainly not even defending life in the womb. They're usually pro-abortion people. So this is what I would want to say about this, and be careful because there are even some churches that are promoting that you have to be about all of life to say that you're really pro-life, especially in progressive Christianity. What you need to understand is that at this time in our country, our government is funding the killing of a certain group of people, the unborn. Our government is not intentionally setting aside money to create refugees or to create hunger or to create any list of injustices. But this is the issue that our government has legalized the killing of a grouping of people in our nation. So it follows that there should be a group of people, all of us listening, that actively do what we can to save their lives. We need to understand that, yes, we do need to care for children. But if you were to look at the statistics of the people that care for life within the womb, they are often caring for children outside of the womb too. They're usually the biggest group of people wanting to foster children, adopt children. They're giving to centers. The pro-life centers, the pregnancy centers that are helping women in difficult pregnancies, those are 100% funded by people who care about life in the womb, but who then also provide diapers and care and classes to help people who've had abortions, who've chosen life. They are doing so many different types of things. So don't let people switch the labels on you. When they say you're just a pro-birther, you can say, I'm about trying to save the lives of those from people who want to intentionally kill innocent human beings. It is wrong to intentionally kill innocent human beings. I'm trying to save them. And yes, I'm trying to do other things too. But let me give you another thing. You can also say, even if I'm a horrible person and I'm not helping to provide diapers and I'm not helping to do anything for anyone after they've been born, how does that disprove my argument that it's wrong to intentionally kill innocent human beings? Stay tethered to your syllogism. You keep going back to that so that people can't switch the labels, switch the slogans. You are going to continuously try to move back to your main pro-life argument. The question is who counts as one of us? And how we determine that is we have to define who the unborn is. And so if you can just simply state who the unborn is, use logic, science, and philosophy, and you're appealing to the idea that the human equality can only be achieved if we treat people both inside the womb and outside the womb in an equal measure, that we all have the right to life. So those are just 5 slogans I selected for tonight. You may have other slogans that you think, I wonder how you answer this. Shoot me an email. I will be happy to try to answer other slogans or to point you to resources that answer those slogans. Don't think that you have to know the answers to every slogan to begin to get involved in the pro-life defense. What you do need to know is the syllogism so that you stay tethered. And whatever slogan is thrown at you, you can use some of this logic that I've kind of given you tonight. But if you continuously go back to your syllogism, you will have something to say in every single conversation that you have. Let me say one more thing about this idea of that if you're just a pro-birther. You can ask this question. You can say, you get angry at the American Cancer Society when they don't do things to help diabetics, or when they don't do things to help epileptics, or when they don't do things to help children that are born without legs that work. Why is it that it's just those that are trying to defend the lives of the babies inside the womb are given a whole litany of other things that they need to cover, whereas we would never demand that of the Cancer Society or the Epilepsy Foundation to take on every other condition that affects humanity? To close tonight, I want to just show you this picture. I'm going to show it to you in a big way right here. You see these precious little babies. And these are some of the babies. We've had multiple, but these are several of the babies that have been saved from abortion. And it's because of curriculum and speaking up and speaking out. And those are just 6 faces. Well, actually, the one, Joel, the little one, that he actually died soon after birth. But these other 5 I'm showing you are babies that are alive today because there were people like you that chose to not sit on the sidelines. They got in the game, they prayed, they gave, they learned to speak up, and they used their treasures, they used their time, they used their talents to spread a culture of life. I want to close with this. What the Bible tells us to do is he tells us to fill the earth. We are to fill the earth with a culture of life. And right now, the culture of death is filling the United States. It is filling the United States with fear that women are going to die, that women are not going to be able to get treatment for miscarriages. They are filling the airways with absolute lies and deceptions and twisting the truth. And some Christians are helping them to do that. When I was researching last night, looking for just a small video on YouTube to show my class about the amazing development of humanity within the womb, every video that I was going to watch that was going to show me the science, every one I clicked on had a political advertisement about voting yes to Amendment 4 in the state of Florida. A vote for Amendment 4, a vote yes, is to say abortion on demand up till birth. No minor has to have consent from parents. But while I was researching for videos about the development of the distinct living whole human being, I was inundated with advertisements causing fear and deceiving people to think that they had to vote for this horrendous amendment that will exploit women and take the lives. And I was overcome realizing they are filling the earth. They are ruling the earth with evil and with death. But we as people who are humane, who believe in human equality, and those of us who are followers of Jesus, we can extend a culture of life. But we have to be willing to get out there and to sweat and to cry and to speak and to be made fun of. And it may take much greater cost than that in coming days. But as I close out these teachings, I just want to encourage you, it's not too difficult to defend life. It just takes some time to think and to get the arguments in your mind and to be filled with compassion for the youngest image bearers that exist. How many more have to die until you and I decide to speak up? Yes, vote, but it is required that we do so much more to stop the genocide of death that is permeating the United States and the world. Please get involved. I'm going to give you my email address. Feel free to contact us. Well, this is our website. Feel free. We're having a new website coming up in about 4 weeks. Contact us through our website. You can send me an email at leslie@1040connections.org. If you need me to send you any more information, you can find these on YouTube or Facebook. Watch them again, share them if they've helped you. Soon, I will be putting out really short videos that are very short that I'm going to be using for our global partners in life, because that's what they're wanting, and they're going to put them into different languages, and I'll be letting them be seen in America too. And so, but our organization is doing things, but so many organizations are out there with resources to help you to defend life and to do justice. Go out there and spread a culture of life. It's worth it, and don't get weary doing it, because if you're a believer in Jesus, the rewards will be coming in heaven. There's a wall of remembrance. The wedding linen of the bride of Christ will have all of the ways you've defended life on earth. Jesus is pleased with your efforts. God bless. Have a great night.